Hello and welcome to another episode of Sustainability in Your Ear. I'm Mitch Recleim with Earth911, and we get together every once in a while and talk with innovative leaders in business and recycling. Today we're really pleased to have Steve Bush, who's the CEO of Recleim. It's a company that has made tremendous advances, so much so that it's been named the #1 environmental services company in the Inc. 5000. And their area of focus is refrigerator recycling right now, and the idea of closed loop or circular systems where the product is dealt with from beginning of life to end of life by the manufacturer on behalf, with Recleim working on behalf of the manufacturer. Steve, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate you having me.
Why is refrigerant an important thing for people to be thinking about recycling properly today?
So refrigerators in particular have refrigerants not only in the cooling circuit, the compressor that keeps your food cold, but they also contain a refrigerant inside the foam liner of the refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
And depending upon the age of the refrigerator, if it was made sort of prior to 2005, there's a high likelihood that that refrigerant, both in the compressor and trapped inside the foam, is a CFC refrigerant. So it's a CFC gas, meaning that if you release that gas to the atmosphere, CFCs are the things that create the hole in the ozone layer, dangerous for the environment. So at that time, sort of pre-2005, manufacturers often used the same refrigerant in the cooling circuit or a similar refrigerant as the blowing agent to get liquid foam to spray into the cavity and quickly expand to create that insulating layer. So while there are 5 ounces of fluid in the compressor, many people don't understand or don't realize that there are up to 2 pounds of a CFC refrigerant trapped inside the foam of a refrigerator. And so when it comes to the end of a life of a refrigerator, if you take it to a landfill, if you sit it out on the street, if you take it to a local shredder that doesn't have sort of gas capture capability, then as those units are recycled or shredded or whatever is done to them, the foam gets aerated and those gases are released and therefore harm the environment.
No, and those the CFCs, the chlorofluorocarbons, were banned by the Montreal Protocol back early in the century. So this is something that the world has recognized as a problem. You've come up with a business solution to do it. You currently have locations in 3 places: Graniteville, Philadelphia, and Lima, Ohio. And that means that you can serve 10 states. How does somebody get a refrigerator to you to have it responsibly recycled?
So our customer base today is spread across retailers, manufacturers, and utilities.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only way we actually get refrigerators today. But so if you were to go to a Home Depot or a Lowe's or a Best Buy or some sort of retail front and buy an appliance, and they bring you your new appliance to your home and take out your old one, there's a high likelihood that either through a subcontracted relationship or a direct relationship, we end up with those appliances.
Okay.
The other method that we get them is through your utilities energy efficiency program. So many investor-owned utilities will offer you a rebate, let's call it $50,
mm-hmm.
to get rid of a secondary fridge in your home, not the one that's primarily in the kitchen, but maybe you've got one in the garage or a basement. They look at this as a way to reduce the peak demand that they have to generate on a daily basis, because that second fridge that you have is typically going to be an older, more energy inefficient
mm-hmm.
version than the one you have in your kitchen. So taking those off the grid reduces the peak demand.
So our listeners
we pick those up directly from your customer locations and then bring them back to our plants for processing.
Okay, so a consumer, if they go to Lowe's or Home Depot or buy a GE or Whirlpool device, they would have that the return would be handled by you, and so that's what they should be looking for if they want to have this responsible recycling done with their appliance.
Yeah, they should definitely ask the question, because we don't service every Lowe's and we don't service every Home Depot, we don't service every retail location. Where we have that relationship in place, yes, those refrigerators are being handled appropriately. Where we don't have that relationship in place, they're not being handled properly because we're the only company in the country that has the ability to capture those gases while shredding the unit.
So somebody should be asking for this. If it isn't available, they should be asking to get it themselves, because that's something.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Now, the shredding itself, so you take the appliance and put it into a container where the gases are captured. What happens to the gases when they're captured?
So we have two different technologies in operation in the United States today. So we have a chemical abatement technology, and then we have a nitrogen-based system where we capture the gases, liquefy them, and then transport them to be neutralized in our chemical abatement system. So let me give you the example of Graniteville, South Carolina. So in Graniteville, we have, as you've referenced earlier, a closed loop system. So refrigerator comes in, we're going to cut off the cord, we suck out the liquid refrigerant that's in the compressor, and we get out the oil and all of that sort of stuff. We actually cut the compressor out of the unit. We pull out crisper drawers, metal racking, the butter drawer, all of the things that may be loose within the system itself, within the refrigerator itself. And then the system goes up a conveyor and drops into a series of shredders and granulators. Now, each time a refrigerator drops in, there's an airlock created. So we have doors on each end of the system that close. And while the refrigerator is being shredded, we're constantly pulling off all of the airflow inputting new air and taking out the gases that are released. Those gases are piped directly into a chemical abatement system, a lot like the high school chemistry set. So you have a CFC that comes into that system. It's introduced to heat and a catalyst bed. The CFC gas is converted into hydrochloric acid, and then you add a base, which is sodium hydroxide, to the acid, which neutralizes each other, and basically turn into salt water. And that salt water is analyzed and is benign. It can be put into a storm drain. And during that process, the CFCs are destroyed at 99.99% efficiency, which allows us to meet the Montreal Protocol for the destruction of CFC gas.
Now, let's talk a little about the idea of closed loop, because what you're describing in a sort of a nascent way is the circular economy, the idea that a product that is manufactured should be responsibly demanufactured or unmanufactured, taken apart and returned to use in new forms. How do you see the evolution of the circular economy growing out of the closed loop model that you're introducing for appliances right now? Is this something that we can apply for e-waste and for other kinds of materials or products that contain dangerous materials?
I certainly hope so, Mitch. I think that in general, there's a growing desire both among manufacturers and among consumers for us to take care of the things that, not just throw it away, not just go to the landfill anymore. Europe is a little ahead of us in this game. They already have mandates that appliances are handled appropriately, and many other forms, like you mentioned, e-waste and things like that. In the United States, that is not yet a requirement, although, we fully believe it should be. We don't believe any refrigerator should ever make it to a landfill. The idea that you can take plastic out of an old refrigerator, manipulate it, and do something to it and turn it into something useful versus just putting it in the ground is a thing I think is catching on more and more, and I do think you'll see it continue to grow in other forms of recycling.
And key to all this is education. We've, over the course of the last year, we've seen changes in the U.S. recycling collection practices because of the Chinese ban on waste imports. Do you see that as a catalyst? The kind of disruption that we're seeing now in recycling is an opportunity for entrepreneurs like yourself to start to step in with these kinds of solutions?
We absolutely see it as a catalyst. In fact, part of what the founders of Recleim, of which I'm one of them, we would love to incubate some new companies to handle recyclable materials that are outputs from our plants. that, you can't send it to China anymore. And,
Sure.
and really, why can't we handle this in the United States? Like we have the education, we certainly have the technology to figure out a way to be able to reuse these materials effectively and efficiently and at a cost that makes sense. And so, that's definitely one of our initiatives moving forward, is to help some new businesses get off the ground in this space.
Now, you guys were founded in 2012, and you're already the #1 environmental services company in the Inc. 5000. How did you get there? What did that take?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, we have been blessed beyond measure with the reception since the company was founded. From the first day we were on the steps of the state legislature in South Carolina, we had Nikki Haley's support when she was governor of South Carolina. Mm-hmm. The message of here, we're responsibly recycling, the closed loop. I think it's resonated well, not only with, retailers and manufacturers, but consumers as well. There's just there hasn't been a lot of focus in the area where we, in the appliance space. Mm-hmm. I think nobody really thought about it that much. So we've been fortunate in having the story. I mean, Inc. magazine included an article on us back in 2015 because of our relationship with the town of Graniteville. Graniteville, if you haven't read that article, went through a train wreck in 2005. 3,000 people lost their job, and the town kind of died. Right. And we were able to come in and create a company that not only is going to, do great things for the environment by recycling refrigerants and destroying refrigerants like they should be, but also bring much needed jobs to this little town. And so I think from that seed of, sort of recycling the town as well, or trying to use this recycling business as a catalyst to help get the town back on its feet. From that point forward, I mean, the message and the story has just resonated well. And again, we've been blessed.
Well, and I think you're really underscoring the important thing to understand is these are local economic development opportunities. It's a distributed problem rather than something that can be concentrated in one place. So this new economy is going to generate millions of new jobs. And we're only starting to see it as we begin to address these very specific problems. But as we generalize the circular approach, there are an immense number of good middle-class jobs out there for people to work on these things. And it's great that you're doing that with Graniteville, because that community suffered. I don't know how they did with the hurricane recently, but I hope that they're not suffering more. And so business investing should be thinking about starting with a local solution, because that is a people solution, and that prosperity is going to drive the rise of this economy. Now, as you have worked and developed different ways of reaching the source of refrigerators, you've started to partner with local utility companies. Can you tell us how that is working out, and how does that change the local utility company's business?
We partner with them, as I mentioned before, in their energy efficiency platform. So mm-hmm. We provide call center support, transportation services. We'll send crews into your home to get the old unit, mm-hmm. take it out, we'll process, and then we shred that unit. I mean, it allows the electric utility to become a member of an EPA program called RAD, R-A-D, Responsible Appliance Disposal. Part of the RAD program is handling the foam correctly. So mm-hmm. you can't just throw it in a normal car shredder and release those gases. You've got to capture those gases that are trapped inside the foam. Mm-hmm. So that's what our service provides to the utility. And then, it was good for us as a business. It's another channel, which is good. It's typically a large volume. I mean, some of these utilities will grab 20 or 30,000 refrigerators per year, depending upon the size of their customer base. Mm-hmm. So that's, that was positive for us. And then, we came in at a time when there was a little bit of a void in that space for the utilities. One of the previous companies that had been in this space went bankrupt in 2015, and we were able to step into that business in 2016. So timing worked out pretty well.
And you've also expanded into HVAC system recovery.
Yes.
is that your next area of growth?
Absolutely. I mean, I love the HVAC space. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's a group of climate scientists at drawdown.org that have focused on the top 100 ways to reduce global warming. Number one on that list is refrigerant recovery and destruction. Refrigerants are found not only in refrigerators, but HVAC systems. You hear Freon, right? That's kind of the general term that people throw against that kind of refrigerant. So we're working with dealers and distributors in that space to make sure that those gases aren't released, that we get the gases and we're able to destroy them. And then, again, it's about the closed loop, properly taking all of that copper and aluminum and steel that are located in those HVAC systems and turning them back into something that's reusable in the economy.
And you mentioned Europe earlier. They have what are called producer responsibility laws, and some of those are starting to be put in place here in the United States. For instance, 3 states require that when you purchase a mattress, you pay a small fee that will ensure that the mattress is picked up. How do you see producer responsibility laws evolving in the U.S., if they're evolving at all right now?
They're not moving a lot right now, and I think if you look at the manufacturers that are operating in the U.S., most of them have a presence in Europe. So they've had the experience of seeing how that system works. I think it would be their desire not to get to a full producer responsibility scenario in the U.S., but just ensure that the units are being handled properly. We work directly with a lot of the manufacturers, and so they are, by going ahead and reaching out proactively and working with us, I think they're trying to show that maybe the full mandate is not needed here in the U.S.
Well, it's a kind of a mixed voluntary system where what the keystone is the economic viability of the process. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Now, where can people find Recleim online?
We are at www.recleim, RECLEIM.com.
Great. And
we spelled it that way to basically honor our European roots. All of our technologies come from Europe because Europe has the mandates we just discussed, and they're the ones who are leading the advancement of this type of technology. So we brought the newest and best technologies from Europe into the U.S. in this space.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Steve, for joining us today on Sustainability in a Year. We're looking forward to keeping track of what Recleim is doing, and please come back and join us again.
Will do, Mitch. Thank you for having me.
Thanks very much. Well, folks, that's another innovation interview on Sustainability in Your Ear. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, and we'll be back next time. Take care.